Hi there, I'm Dr. Alessandra Latour, founder of the Latour Leadership Academy. For more than 16 years, I've worked with leaders across organizations to strengthen how they think, decide, and operate, especially in high pressure environments. This podcast is where we go beyond surface level leadership advice. We talk about the patterns, behaviors, and structural gaps that actually shape how leaders show up, and why capable leaders still get stuck. You won't find generic frameworks here. You'll find perspective, clarity, and the kind of thinking that helps you lead more effectively in the moments that matter most. If you're ready to lead with greater clarity, discipline, and intention, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Trust rarely collapses because of the crisis itself. It collapses because of how leaders behave while the crisis is unfolding. There's a persistent myth in organizations that trust is destroyed by layoffs, restructures, or hard strategic decisions. But research suggests something more nuanced. According to Edelman's Trust Barometer, team members are far more likely to remain committed during difficult decisions when leaders communicate with transparency and consistency. It's not just the decision that matters, it's whether leaders construct meaning around it. And silence is a form of meaning. I once worked alongside a C-suite team preparing for full team layoffs. Confidentiality was required, and that part was totally understandable. But what shifted wasn't discretion, it was disappearance. Emails went unanswered, small requests received no reply. There was no, I'll get back to you, no acknowledgement whatsoever, just silence. And here's what's important. When leaders go silent, people don't pause, they interpret. Organizational psychology shows that in uncertain environments, the human brain fills informational gaps with threat-based assumptions. Ambiguity activates stress responses, and when there's no explanation, people assume the worst. The layoffs were painful, but what lingered longer was the memory of executive distance. The cultural message absorbed quietly was this: when things get hard, communication disappears. Trust wasn't lost in the restructuring, it was lost in the absence of relational presence. Now, if you're in the C-suite or any senior leadership position, here's what this means. Confidentiality does not require withdrawal. Narrative clarity does not require full disclosure. It requires disciplined framing. So instead of silence, leaders can say, there are decisions being evaluated that I can't discuss yet. I know uncertainty is difficult, and I will update you as soon as I am able. Or they might say, you may notice some delayed responses this week. That reflects active strategy work, not disengagement. Or they might say, here is what remains stable, even while some things are under review. Gallup research consistently shows that team members who feel informed about organizational direction are significantly more engaged than those who feel excluded from context. Even limited context reduces that anxiety when it's consistent. Trust is built through steady presence, not perfect answers. But let's shift for a moment. What if you're not in the C-suite? What if you're the, mid-level leader who senses something's happening above you and your team is asking questions that you can't answer? This is where leadership maturity becomes visible. When leaders go silent, especially senior leaders, the middle layer often feels exposed. You don't have full information, you don't want to speculate, you don't want to alarm your team. So what do many leaders do? They mirror the silence. And that's where trust fractures at scale. If you're in that middle layer, here are 3 discipline moves you can make. First, acknowledge uncertainty without amplifying it. You could say, I don't have additional information right now, but I promise to share updates as soon as I receive them. This prevents your team from assuming you're withholding. 2, you could anchor what's stable, reinforce your priorities, the current goals, the immediate deliverables. Stability at the local level buffers anxiety from above. Third, protect your credibility. Don't speculate. Don't even attempt to interpret executive silence emotionally. Stay grounded. When you remain steady, your team experiences steadiness. Research on emotional contagion shows that leaders' emotional regulation directly influences team stress levels. When you as a leader appear anxious or evasive, stress spreads. When you as a leader appear composed and clear, stress moderates. You may not control executive communication, but you control narrative discipline within your span of influence. Here are 3 structural practices for any leader navigating uncertainty. 1, establish a predictable communication cadence. 2, separate confidentiality from disengagement. And 3, audit your accessibility during pressure. Do you narrow access when you're stressed? Because here's the deeper truth. In crisis, people are not evaluating whether you have perfect answers. They are evaluating whether you remain relationally available. Silence constructs meaning, and it rarely constructs the meaning you're hoping for. Trust is not lost in crisis, it is lost in unframed ambiguity. If this episode resonated, I share deeper leadership architecture insights in my newsletter. practical frameworks for building steadiness, clarity, and operational credibility at every level of leadership. You can join at authenticleadershipunlocked.com. Leadership isn't revealed when things are easy, it's revealed when things are unclear, and clarity is a discipline. Thanks for joining me today. If this episode challenged your thinking, that's the point. And it's exactly the kind of work we continue beyond the podcast. You can explore more at latourleadershipacademy.com, where I share leadership programs and resources designed to help leaders translate insight into sustained behavior change. And if you're not already subscribed, join our weekly newsletter at authenticleadershipunlocked.com. It's where I go deeper on the patterns shaping leadership right now and what most people are missing. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.